7 years since I started my minimalism journey when I packed for my move from Switzerland to Germany, where I live now. And I have learned so much about minimalism, about myself. And during 7 years, of course, my life also has changed drastically. My possessions have changed. My views of minimalism have changed, and my views of my life overall have changed as well. So let me share some thoughts I've recently had after 7 years of minimalism. I've made a similar video last year and also the year before that, and I just watched my past videos before recording this one, and it's so interesting to see how things change, but at the same time how certain thoughts are still the same, or that I'm still thinking about the same parts of minimalism. And one of that is that I feel like I'm outgrowing the minimalism box. Now, I still consider myself a minimalist, and I still think minimalism is a great way to live intentionally and stop over-consuming, live a more sustainable life, and live a happier life. But I just feel like the walls of this minimalism box that you usually put minimalism into, they become transparent to a point where I'm not even sure if I'm still inside of this box. And I think that's a good thing, because minimalism should be something personal, should be something that works for my life, and shouldn't feel like a concept that's like foreign to me, that I have to adapt to, that I have to fit into. I think being a minimalist in the best case doesn't feel like being a minimalist, it just feels like living your best life. So the parts of this lifestyle that I think are beneficial to me are so much second nature now, after 7 years of practicing that, of like thinking about it and living according to like minimalist values and rules, whatever those might be. I don't really think about minimalism in my everyday life. I don't think about my possessions as much. I don't think about decluttering, and I don't feel like restricted or even like pulled into any direction for minimalism anymore. Which leads me to my second point. After 7 years, I feel like I really don't need minimalist rules anymore. I don't need to monitor my belongings. I don't need to justify my purchases. I don't need to make sure that I'm still a good minimalist. So I do think it does make sense to like be pretty strict while decluttering. It just makes sense to be really clear and honest with yourself when it comes to what things actually benefit your life, what things you actually want to keep for the future. But there are also other areas of my life where I think I restricted myself a bit too much. I'll share one example with you. So there are so many people online that do not use shampoo and soap to like clean their body, because their philosophy is that water only does the job as well. For the longest time, I tried to, declutter shampoo, declutter soap, and have less items for the sake of like being a better minimalist or needing less. But in return, I didn't get more simplicity, especially like caring for my hair became more complicated, because I was always like fighting against grease. And no matter how many methods I tried, different water types, different like ways of like brushing or not brushing, brushing before showering, brushing after showering, no poo things that are not shampoo but still some kind of soap, it just did not work. So I came to the conclusion to sometimes, be less minimalist when it comes to the possessions, to have a more simple life. So what I learned from that is that I don't want to achieve perfection if it means that I have to put in so much effort. Then I won't gain something overall for my life and my happiness, but it just makes my life more difficult. And I don't want that. I don't want to be a perfect minimalist if that means my life gets more difficult, because I'm not doing this for minimalism. I'm doing that for myself, to live a life that I am content with. But I do want to make like one exception, or say something for those rules of minimalism. I think in various stages of trying to be a minimalist, it makes sense to have certain rules if they are helpful to you. And one that I still have is like my low buy guideline, which is that I can buy one thing per month for myself. Now, sometimes it's more than one, sometimes it's none at all, and there's no punishment if I don't do it right, and I don't feel guilty. But just that guideline helps me prioritize what I want to buy, helps me just spend money and consume in an intentional way. And so therefore I feel like it's not restricting me, but it's helpful, and that's why I'm keeping it. But you have to find the rules and things that work for you and ditch all of these guidelines and things that don't help you achieve minimalism or achieve a life that you want to live. And then there's one big change I feel from last year. So in last year's video, I did talk about like moving away from rules, moving away from like monitoring my belongings that closely, judging things and purchases more so based on my feelings, and sometimes allowing myself to just have what I want instead of like intellectually justifying it and, you know, making sure it's all logically making sense to buy something or declutter something and things like that. And I would say I've made so much progress in that area because I really feel like minimalism or my lifestyle in general is so much less about my belongings now. Like, yes, you have to declutter your items when starting on a minimalism journey usually because you have too much and it's overwhelming you. But at a certain point, decluttering more and more is not beneficial. That's also why I ditched extreme minimalism, and I'm talking more about that in the video I link you up here. And I think it's just important to realize that minimalism in the end is getting away from always thinking about stuff, no matter if you're, you know, thinking about having more stuff, thinking about having less stuff. So a sentence I came up with is, I want to focus less on stuff instead of focusing on less stuff, because that was the problem like in my minimalist life maybe during the past few years, that I tried to have less and less and less because that seemed promising for, you know, a happy future and a content minimalist life. But I realized that I'm at a point where I shouldn't care so much about the number, about the items in general. Of course, I appreciate them. But what's really important in life is not the stuff at all. It's the friendships, it's the things we do, it's the things we learn, it's, you know, our values, our families, our communities, our other things than stuff. And I really feel like I've done a good job in improving in this area to like focus less on stuff without like now over consuming or indulging in consumption or anything like that. But it's just a life that focuses more on what I do instead of what I have. And that's ultimately what a big part of minimalism is for me. And I just feel like after 7 years, I found a good balance with my stuff. I found a good balance with my time I spend, like, you know, being a minimalist, it feels like I'm not spending any time like maintaining my minimalism in that sense. And I think that's a good thing because in the end, I think minimalism should make itself obsolete because it's just a tool to help us, you know, concentrate on our priorities, and these should not be minimalism. I think you can see that in the content of this channel as well. I'm not gonna stop completely making minimalism videos because I think my channel has been hugely mostly about minimalism during the past 3 years, and that's okay. And I know a lot of people like watching are maybe not at the same stage in their minimalism journey and still really enjoy like hearing me talk about minimalism. And so that's gonna stay here on this channel. But apart from that, I do also want to make other videos like vlogs and maybe videos about other topics that don't have so much to do with items and minimalism per se, but just with living an intentional and happy life. And I do hope you are on board with that. You will continue watching my videos. And I also want to say thank you so much for watching. Let's see how this journey continues. I'm really at a happy point in my life when it comes to my stuff, my belongings, my thoughts about minimalism, and me not thinking about minimalism most of the time. So thank you so much for watching, and I do want to link you last year's video because I think it's a really good one. I hope I'll see you there, and otherwise in my next video. Bye!